This is intended to be a follow-up video on my Daniel, the counting has begun video. Essentially, the counting has happened, the days have happened. We completed it on the 6th. The next day was the beginning of a war that we're witnessing. I believe the completion of that and the starting of the war at the timing that it did should be on our minds is very significant. This was known prior to God. Now I would say there's another significant sign in the heavens to note. On Rosh Hashanah, or the Day of Trumpets, the constellation Virgo was given a trumpet, essentially right there. So God is giving us signs. The question is, are we looking? So my thought has been, okay, now what? The lesson that's been on my mind for now what is it's important to recognize the path that we are on, our individual paths. Now, these paths, I believe, are covenants. Covenants is the process or the pathway for which we have either blessing or consequence or curse. Now, our obedience to the path, like I say, provides one or the other. It's important to recognize what we are. For instance, Jews, they are like bikes. There's places that's only for them. The obedience to the law of Moses is for them. Now, as a Gentile, we have the opportunity to learn from it. That's different than having the requirement to live it. Reason is it's protection, and I think it's pretty clear right there. So, identifying the path that we should be on. Acts 15, I think, is a very interesting example of this, because this was the apostles deciding what things were needful for the converted Gentiles to be doing. The 4 things they listed is essentially the 4 things that were contained in the covenant with Noah. When Noah exited the ark, these 4 are laid out, and you can see these things basically explained, not in detail, but the 4 we can learn from, and it's when we break these 4, or a combination of them, that judgment can come. Sodom and Gomorrah, they obviously mixed up the fornication stuff, or the commandment to multiply and replenish the earth, and the other was from blood. This is eye for an eye, life for life. This is the requirement for justice. That society was incredibly unjust, and because they had blown up those 2 specifically, as well as others, but those 2 very specifically, that brought upon them the judgments of God, and God was just destroying the wickedness of that civilization. Now, obedience to these things and taking responsibility and accountability for our actions within that covenant, we can also be protected and provided with the blessing of protection. So I believe that we should be looking for ways to repent. Once again, through Jesus Christ, it is through Him that all covenants and breaking of them is made right, and correction made. But ultimately, we must take responsibility, and that one is one that is universally applicable and one that we are universally mixing up. So go ahead and study it. Those are the thoughts I wanted to share. I want to add a note of clarity. I'm not claiming that Jews are bikes. I'm trying to use this as a metaphor to illustrate a point. The thing to recognize, though, is you can self-identify as something that you're not and put yourself in a very dangerous situation. Let's say that you're the bike. No, I'm the bike. And I decide to go on the freeway. Okay? That's a very dangerous situation. This is us, as Paul was cautioning to the converted Gentiles, to put ourselves under a law that we're not responsible for, can be blinding and can be very problematic to us, because it's not that salvation comes through obedience to those things. Those things were intended to teach us. Now, we should be grateful to Israel, to the Jews, for being essentially God's people, that He's playing out the drama of His information He's trying to convey to mankind. we should always be grateful for it, but that does not mean that we have to do it. And in fact, when we do, we're on the wrong lane of travel, and we're very susceptible to destruction, to deception, which is destruction. Like I say, I just didn't want to miss that point. Want to make sure that was clear. Thanks for listening.